Hey, this is the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and believe it or not, whether you like it or don't like it, learn to love it, because you have to listen to Wrestling is Real. It is the best thing going today. Woo!
The worldwide leader of podcasting excellence, the king of podcasts radio network proudly presents The Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
So 778 of the Wrestling is Real podcast. Thank you for listening. This is King of Podcasts here with you. Money in the Bank weekend coming up this Saturday, 3 o'clock start time from London, England in the O2 Arena. We're going to talk about that at nauseum tonight on the program. Not ad nauseum. We want to go and talk about this. It's important. So we're talking about that tonight on the program. We're also going to go ahead and talk about any fallout from AEW's Forbidden Door. By the way, if you didn't catch it, I did do a post show for Forbidden Door, including my experience of going to Buffalo Wild Wings, which I almost forgot how much the food really does do a number on you, and like how, man, I feel like I'm still hitting the restroom. I'm still kind of like unloading what I ate there, because I mean, I did go a little overboard. I had a couple shots. I had two orders of the pretzel knots, which were really great. 15 lemon pepper wings. That's pretty much it. And some fries. So like I really did go all out for that. And, you know, I wasn't necessarily surprised by the menu, but I did like the show. And as I said, there was not much of a crowd there to watch the wrestling pay-per-view, but for people that were there was nobody there. It was to myself. Like, it was really quiet in there. And I had the big screen all to myself up at the bar. I think, except for a little bit, I was the only person at the bar, except for a friend of mine that stopped by who said, you know, he knew I was already coming over, so he stopped by to visit. That's pretty much it. So the AEW Forbidden Door, go ahead and look for that right now. WrestlingIsReal.com, right? Look for it right there, and you'll find that, and you'll check it out for yourselves. One comment from last week's show I want to go ahead and make mention of. Damon Stevens 8722. He replied to my story on LA Knight on last week's show, episode 776. And he said the following about LA Knight when it comes to, will LA Knight climb to the main event level? Because we're all kind of focusing on him right now. So here's what Damon says, quote, he's decent in the ring. It's just that they kept booking him to lose. So he barely gets any offense. And of course, he's going to be over. The Rock wasn't anything special in the ring, but his charisma and his promo work was what got him over. Same with Stone Cold. That's why people like LA Knight. We want to see LA in the main event. Now, you can have him get it some way else, but he should be there. There will be some backlash if he doesn't win, though. People got to remember the WWE audience is a mix of hardcore and casual fans. Well said, Damon. You're right. And when it comes to LA Knight, he is a favorite. But that also leads me into tonight's program. Is he the one that's going to be the new star to lead up? Because people have been talking about the fact that, yeah, the stars that are very much on top, they're very much in their prime. They are not younger stars being given a chance to go ahead and carry the company. That's not happening right now. Triple H is of the belief of having the veterans be the ones that are up front, the ones that have not been tainted. And so that's why Seth Rollins has been up there for a long time. And you see where Roman Reigns, the Usos, been around on that company. They've been noticed. They've been recognized for a decade over there on the brands. That's the other thing you got to remember too. They're not introducing a whole lot of people. And if they are, they're just kind of fodder for the rest of the shows. Alpha Academy or Viking Raiders or, you know, like there's others out there, but like really established stars that have been seen on the brand for a long time. And honestly, to me, I think about the fact that earlier this week we got Shinsuke Nakamura and Ricochet, and I'm like, what the hell, man? I will say this. I hate the watered down version of WWE when it comes to this, because I remember Ricochet as Prince Puma in Lucha Underground, and remembering like we saw this guy working like massive matches, being the Lucha Underground champion, right? Let's not forget that he was Lucha Underground champion and was carrying that brand quite a bit, because that guy was the star. Of course, there was Mil Muertes. Of course, there was a bunch of others, but there was something about Prince Puma that was just a standout. And here's Ricochet without the mask. It does make a difference. And he's really just kind of just been here. They did push him to be more like the Superman kind of character as a superhero. It never really worked, but he's kind of just been here. He's being booked as the NXT version of himself. And Shinsuke Nakamura, also the NXT version of himself. There's no development, no real evolution of these characters at all. Not much different than their promo ability. They're just good workers. But the entertainment side is what's lacking. And I look at them, I'm saying they're just not in the right element here. And that's what it comes down to with some of the stars they have, to see what they're going to try to do and what they're going to try to make them do better with. These are the kind of things I think about all the time. With Money in the Bank coming up this weekend, our ladder matches are all set. We got a very stacked card. I'd like to think that basically the Bloodline Civil War is what's going to overshadow everything else on this card. But if you're going to go in the order of what the card is in terms of importance, the Money in the Bank ladder matches, it's just there. Like it's important. And I'd like to see who they're going to get to go and be that really is going to get set off on this. This is the first time that Triple H now, see right now, Triple H has done everything in the cycle. A normal yearly cycle of being ahead of the books. You want to go ahead and say that Vince McMahon is still involved. I keep hearing that over and over and over. No, maybe he's making some decisions, but it's still Triple H's pencil. And I'm just not going to accept that Vince is like making the changes. He's in charge of which stars are up right now. I think he absolutely agrees with Roman Reigns where he's at. He agrees with Seth Rollins where he's at. I don't know if he agrees where Gunther is at right now as IC champ. I think using Ronda Rousey to build up the tag team division for the women is a good idea. But yeah, that's where I see that. But U.S. title, by the way, no Austin Theory. And Austin Theory's not in the ladder match. Did anybody notice that? He's a title holder. He's not in here at all. I just thought that was kind of interesting to see. But look, they have a set lineup. And here's what we got so far. If I want to go by priority. So the Money in the Bank ladder matches. Yes, the women. Well, okay. The men, of course, trump the women when it comes to the ladder match and what's going to happen with that. And then you have, I want to say that the tag team titles, the women's tag team titles, that comes up after that. It actually, that gets a little bit higher up on the rankings than the ladder matches are, to me. Then an IC title match. Then Cody and Dominic. Then the World Heavyweight title. And then the Bloodline Civil War. That's where I think you go in the order of like what's important. What matters to me anyway. So we got to find out what's going to happen. Who is it that could be the favorite to the Money in the Bank ladder matches on both sides? Are any of them? When I think about who's going to win and who should win and why. I went through the LA Knight scenario last week. When I look at the names they have here, scratch out half the names right off the bat. Ricochet, Shinsuke Nakamura, no. We're not picking it. I'm not guessing any of those. Either of those will be in this ladder match to win the briefcase. And I will take out Butch. Gives me 4 names. Logan Paul, LA Knight, Damian Priest, Santos Escobar. Santos Escobar is that 4th name. If I had to go and whittle that down to 2, I'm going to say it's Logan Paul or LA Knight. And Damian Priest is not that far off those top 2. So Logan Paul, you can set up the SummerSlam match where Logan Paul cashes in on Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title. Got it. You have that scenario in front of you. LA Knight is just the popular favorite. But then you have to build a storyline for him. Because he has not had any feuds. He has not had any great matches that have really stood out. And he's not dominated anyone. Do you understand that? I made this case a lot last week. I spent 40 minutes on LA Knight. I won't go into that again. I just made my point. Santos Escobar, I mean, I guess Seth? Because remember, in that Money in the Bank ladder match for the men, it will not be any of those people going after the Universal title and Roman Reigns. Let's just make that point. It's only going to be people that are going to go out after Seth Rollins. So it can only be Logan Paul or Damian Priest, in my opinion. It makes more sense to have those two carrying the briefcase, getting, the heat on them and going for that. As I said, Finn Balor, I think, is booked to lose to Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title, regardless of how well they built up the match. Okay? But I believe that Finn loses, and I'm going to bet that Damian Priest wins. Because then with Damian Priest, you have the setup to where Finn wants another title shot against Seth, and he's going to think he's the leader of the Judgment Day, and he's going to challenge Damian Priest to take that briefcase and use it. Because he's going to feel he's the best possible opportunity to win the World Heavyweight title if he gets a rematch on Seth Rollins. That's what I think. That's where I think things go. And I'm going to say Logan Paul and LA Knight are going to have a feud after this. Where else do you go with LA Knight? You got to give him somebody. So LA Knight will be a decent enough wrestler to go up against Logan Paul. Who has some good mouth breathing between each other. That'll be good. That will work out. That's a good storyline right there too. And you can build that up to SummerSlam as well. You got the 4 weeks. So why not go that route? LA Knight, Logan Paul. Let's get to that match. It's already popular enough. LA Knight, you want to get him over? Yeah, put him against Logan Paul. And honestly, let's give him a feud. Because then you could continue this kind of thing that's going on with these two. LA Knight was obviously had no problem to point out Logan Paul in the first place. So let's see if he can go and match words with the big star here, the influencer. Do that. I think that's the right decision to go with. They sent LA Knight for a lot of press, by the way. Why not go ahead? Listen, it's the same way as if the Miz and Logan Paul were each other, right? It's the same kind of feel. LA Knight gives me the kind of promo vibes that the Miz does, to be honest. So let's put that together. And the Damian Priest and Finn Balor have a factious rivalry, an issue between each other that will ruffle the feathers. And then Dom and Rhea have to get involved to try to get the Judgment Day together. The possible implosion of Judgment Day is a good storyline that could get patched up after the fact. Because no matter what, if they want to go and get their hands on Seth Rollins and the World Heavyweight title, let's go that route. If Santos Escobar wins, okay, you give the LWO this nice trinket, but what does it do for them? Santos Escobar has also not been given any feuds at all. Not really. Like LWO has Judgment Day to go after, okay, but they can go after that without the belt, without the briefcase, right? But if you want to put Santos Escobar up there where he's going to be such a strong singles wrestler to do that, I don't think he is right now. Because right now, Rey Mysterio is the head of that group. Let's just put it like that. Okay. But that's where I think things go. I think we get 2 feuds out of this. Logan Paul and LA Knight will come out as a feud out of this. And then I think that Damian Priest will win the briefcase and him and Finn Balor will have words. And that will set things up for a possible in-feud between the Judgment Day that could split the Judgment Day apart. Or this causes one of the Judgment Day members to leave the group. Something like that. Because maybe there's a little bit of a shakeup to make sure the Judgment Day really stand out. Because what I see right now is it's Dom and Rhea Ripley. That's the appeal. That's the real thing with this group. Finn Balor or Damian Priest could be expendable in this faction. Now, you can tell me I'm wrong, but I can see that happening. If you want to really shake things up, let's go and go that route. Very dramatic. You can create a lot of good tension here. But we could go that route. Like Judgment Day's been around together for a long time now. Been more than a year. They already went through all their issues when it came to Edge. And now we're at this point. Like, think about that. If we wanted to go that route, let's think about it like this. They've been up and at it since April 2022. And with Balor being brought into the mix, and remember, it was what, a couple of months after WrestleMania Backlash that Balor came into the fold. So he's already been with the group for a year. We've already kind of gone along with this. And it's not a bad thing to go and see if the Judgment Day kind of get themselves a little bit unstable. They already set that up. Remember, they already planted the seed several weeks ago. So they can go ahead and make that move right now. And having this briefcase really makes a difference. And I think egos would really go ahead and come out front and center because of this. I don't know if anybody agrees with me, but that's what I think would happen. That's where I think it could go, honestly. The women's Money in the Bank ladder match, let's go to that. So if we go and take the names that are here, 6 names, let's take half of those out. I could take out, oh man, see, okay, this is a little bit harder. Zoey Stark is a non-factor. Zelina Vega is a non-factor, so I'm going to take 4 of the potentials. Either IYO SKY or Bayley would be good because then they can just feed with each other. And there can be issues where IYO wins the briefcase and then Bayley's like trying to like finagle it off of her. Something like that. You could put it on Trish. But the match we want is Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus to continue, right? Well, that's why I want to continue. That Trish and Becky have not finished up. We need to let that go to SummerSlam, in my opinion. Now, I'm not tired of Trish and Becky. We can keep that going. And then we think about who their opponents would be. Which title are they going to go after? So if it's Zelina, then she's got to go after Asuka. Is there an appeal to that match? Zoey Stark, if she wins, she has to go against Rhea Ripley. Is that an appeal to that match? Heel versus heel. Now, Becky winning, she can go after Rhea. And Trish can be in the deal to try to go ahead and stop Becky from being involved or getting the chance to cash in. And if it's IYO, then yeah, that would be having go after Asuka, right? Sure, it might be that would be a good match, but what kind of story there's going to be behind that? The story, I think, is Becky winning. She's never won the ladder match. They've made that point plenty of times. So I take Becky to win the ladder match, and she'll go up against Rhea Ripley. SummerSlam, you want to make it a Survivor Series, whatever you want. But then the reason she will not be able to go ahead and cash in is because of Zoey and Trish. Because they will be able to go and continue to pester Becky Lynch throughout. And you could do things with Trish and Zoey, and then Becky can have somebody else to accompany her, and they can do something. But for me, I think Becky's the best favorite to win the ladder match, get the briefcase out of all this. Now, could Finn Balor win the World Heavyweight title over Seth Rollins? Well, they could set things up for it. And I couldn't put it past the company that decided to do it. It would be good to see if they could go and build gold. Finn being World Heavyweight Champion here. If you do that, then where does Seth Rollins go after that? That's the question. I mean, Seth can go ahead and try to win the belt back and continue to feud with Judgment Day. You could do that. Well, what else could you do? I don't know, but that's a good question. You just got to ask yourself, where else can they go with the storyline with this and say, okay, what can they do to set things up? They did have the setup with Seth Rollins defending the World Heavyweight title against Braun Breaker. Did it show do anything really special? No. Normal audience for that show to watch. But it was the highest key demo rating since 2021 of April. So people were watching the Tuesday night's NXT Gold Rush Part 2 for Seth and Braun. you could set up things where Braun makes his way up to the main roster and feuds with Seth. And they don't even need to have the belt involved. So you could do that, and you could set Braun up to try to build him up. That's not a bad idea. If you want to do it, why not? I think that's a pretty good place to go with that. So Seth could lose the belt. Seth could lose it on behalf of Braun Breaker, but they're not Braun Breakers. They're going to get interference. What I think happens is that Seth Rollins could very well lose. Can they right the wrong of 7 years ago? Like, the one thing that was really surprising is they always wait to do these things so late after. Like Finn Balor, you think about the last 7 years. Okay, you brought this story up and the demon thing and all this stuff, right? Great. And you're thinking about the fact that, man, what were they doing with this guy all this time? Yeah, he got hurt and this and that. What a great story to tell. But then you think about, okay, what is the shit you put him through before you put him in Judgment Day? What was Finn Balor doing at all? Not really much. Just a good hand out there. You put him in NXT for a while. Like you were just using him just to go where he has to go, but you were not using him as a main eventer. Does Finn Balor now finally get the chance to be that main eventer? Like, I mean, he's been around the company for so damn long. Do you finally acknowledge him? He's 41 years old, by the way. Now, here's another thing that's being brought up. Sports Keto brings this up. If Finn Balor were to become the World Heavyweight Champion, WWE would be repeating a 25-year-old storyline. Let's bring this up real quick. So we know 7 years for this match to have the real rematch to get this back up. Kickstarting another 25-year-old Civil War storyline. So this is the thing that they're talking about here. Okay, this is interesting. My thing is, they're going to say this is a Civil War because Finn Balor wins the title. I think it's because Damian Priest wins the briefcase. But let's go ahead and play along with this fantasy wrestling scenario. So in 1998, we had WCW and the NWO Wolfpack split in 1998. NWO was split into two. Kevin Nash wanted to cut ties with Hulk Hogan, and also included the NWO and Wolfpack are trying to recruit Sting. So there's been a tease of a power struggle between Damian Priest and Finn Balor for a while now, which is the setup for this, which is where you can go both routes. You can let Finn Balor win. And if you're going to give Seth Rollins something to do, then move Braun Breaker up. And then let the Civil War between Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and then Dom and Rhea caught in the crossfire. Let's build that up. Now, Rhea Ripley's been the enforcer. And you know what? We never talked about that. Yes, when it comes to like a Four Horsemen type of feel to it, yeah, Rhea Ripley is the Arn Anderson of the crew. It's funny like that. I don't like to think Dominic Mysterio is a Tully Blanchard. It doesn't sound right. Doesn't work for me. But I mean, I guess it does. I don't know. But Rhea Ripley is the enforcer, often presented as the most important member. She hasn't been an outright leader, but many consider Balor to be the informal leader of the group. Well, what could be done is at the Battle of the Top, it's changed and Rhea Ripley takes control of the Judgment Day and then becomes the leader and is able to qualm the Civil War. That's a thought. Moving along here. If Finn Balor does become World Heavyweight Champion, it establishes him as the number one star on Raw, let alone the number one star on the Judgment Day. And could argue that Balor's the biggest name in the Judgment Day, and tensions with Damian Priest could lead to his big split. Okay. So now we have the Finn Balor feud, which has created Seth Rollins with this match that Finn Balor made the point, the demon's not coming back. That's not the Finn Balor that he's getting. He's getting the Finn Balor that's not going to have the demon in him. So they're making a point that Finn Balor's never going back to that character. That's totally fine. The Finn Balor we have right now is the one that is in NXT. When they kind of went and made him back more into the Virgil Devitt character, right? The Prince Devitt character, somewhat. Without the demon. Now, they've been building up Finn Balor to get up to this match as well because he did work on Raw. He went up against Carmelo Hayes, the NXT champion, and in quick fashion beat Carmelo Hayes. Now, everybody can go along and make mention of, oh, well, how's that supposed to make NXT feel with Carmelo Hayes taking a hit like that? And so, I saw Carmelo Hayes backstage and what he talked about. Anybody really feel much to him at all right now? I mean, it doesn't make much to me anyway. Carmelo Hayes needs a whole lot more work. We still need more of this. And Baron Corbin is not going to be the answer to go ahead and build up Carmelo Hayes. The gimmick is just it's still basic. I mean, he's had good matches, don't get me wrong. But like I said, if you want to build somebody as a sports entertainer, Carmelo Hayes isn't there yet. I would still think there's more time for him to stay over there in NXT. But I think it's a good idea to go and have this right now where Braun Breaker moves up. The NXT locker room needs to take Carmelo Hayes' loss to Finn Balor as a sign. Because that is a message being sent to Orlando, the Performance Center. Carmelo Hayes, oh yeah, you're going to bring him up there to go and take on Finn Balor? And? Wasn't a long match, was it? And Finn Balor, in convincing fashion, won. So Carmelo Hayes doesn't mean anything towards the main roster. He's an NXT champion, whatever. Same thing going with the NXT tag team title holders, the women's tag team title holders in Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. Anybody care? That's somewhat of a match. End of the day, look at how they lost. Both a submission in convincing fashion, just like Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey have done. And then they set up the match with Liv and Raquel for Money in the Bank to set that up coming up now. Get back to that. But they just swallowed up the belts. The NXT title holders didn't matter. They don't. NXT does not have the level. No one has the kind of feeling like that there is any respect within the ranks of corporate of that company where they feel like the NXT stars right now are going to get up there. This is why they're having to go ahead and bring some of the other stars back. Like, there's an appeal to some of the stars they have there. Like I said, the women have that. I've already made it a point. Again, I will just say it one more time. Roxanne Perez, Tiffany Stratton, when you're ready to go and pull them on up, bring them on up. Other than that, I mean, don't give me anything with Joe Gacy. Don't give me anything with, like right now, Grayson Waller getting out there. Not much of a difference to me. Cameron Grimes, same thing. Like, there's just some guys they have on contract. They brought them up here because they've been down there in the NXT for so long. Like, Cameron Grimes was down there forever. We'll bring them back up. See what they can do with them. And then all these different stars they want to bring back down because they're just, what are they going to do, man? They got to build up and get some of these other stars up off the ground. They're not doing too much against each other. So the veterans being brought back down, there's the right reason. But the building up right now, NXT has not impressed me. There are not matches I go and watch over there, and I catch some of their stuff sometimes that's really doing anything for me. It's not. I'm not really impressed by it. It's not doing much for me at all. And I wish it did. Well, we got to work on that. Okay, now let's move along. Gunther and Matt Riddle. They just set this up. Gunther's not losing. To me, Gunther has not made much of a difference to me. Like, okay, Imperium's whatever it is, and the whole setup with them against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, got it. But for me, Gunther, he needs somebody at the level of Sheamus. The thing is, Sheamus just is up there, and he's been up there for so long. And then after Clash of the Castle, and then having on the Royal Rumble where both of them kind of face each other, yeah, that was all great and good. But where we are right now, we have to have something more. We need somebody at that level to go up against Gunther, but there isn't. And I don't think Matt Riddle's the guy. Matt Riddle still, I mean, he came back, but without the push he had. Matt Riddle does not have the push he had before. It's not the same level. I bet you he's probably missing Randy Orton a lot right now, because when he was up there with Randy Orton, tag team champions, I mean, that's what the company actually felt the push was good at him and mattered, and it was getting built up. And then Matt Riddle unfortunately had a setback and he lost his spot. So he's still trying to rebuild himself, his capital and his credibility back up once again. So he doesn't make another mistake again to get, or put him in a place where he falls back. Nothing against him, nothing against the fact of his personal life. And there's a lot of issues there, but when it comes to the fact of what he's had to do right now in this company, like, listen, they're giving him the match here with Gunther. I don't see Matt Riddle winning the IC title here. No. But Gunther has nobody else right now to go up against. There is nobody up against that belt. Not right now anyway. But I mean, Gunther is being booked strong. Don't get me wrong there. But who else do you have him go up against? I don't know. But there's not much going on right there. Unless they want to set something up with Gunther and Riddle, but I don't know if that's going to be anyway. Gunther needs some competition. I don't know what you're going to do with that. Like, I mean, I'll tell you what. If Seth Rollins were to beat Finn Balor and Damian Priest with a briefcase happens, then you set up something for the Judgment Day anyway. But then Seth Rollins could go on against another opponent. And what they could do is just have it set up where, I mean, maybe you could bring Braun Breaker up against Gunther, but we're not expecting that. It's going to be Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. I think that's what they're going to set up down the line. Could Cody go after Gunther? I mean, after Dom, Cody needs something to do. Could he go after Gunther? That won't be a bad idea, but you could do that. Because other than that, before you get Cody to Roman, what else is he going to do in the meantime to build up? That's the question I have. It's nice to see Cody here with Dom. This works really well because of what they're doing with it. But Cody needs something else after this. This is a one-off match. This is not a feud that's going to continue. We have to figure something out for Cody. And the same thing for Gunther. We need some competition for them. Who's that going to be? It's not like they're going to have somebody that's going to come back to go ahead and come back from injury that's going to take care of this. We don't have an answer for that. Like the fact that we don't have a real idea of who Cody Rhodes will have at SummerSlam. And Gunther, we don't really have anybody for him at SummerSlam either. We're going to have to figure those things out. So the women's tag team titles, bringing this match back up. Liv Morgan is able to come back from injury. Great. I don't see Shayna or Ronda losing the belts. And I don't know who you have right now that's going to come on up to challenge them after that. But I don't think Liv and Raquel get the win over here. I mean, you could do something with it where Liv and Ronda, they already had their things going on where Ronda did lose to Liv for the SmackDown Women's title, but what are you going to do right here? Shayna and Ronda hold on to the belts. I don't see Liv and Raquel in it, but in a value effort, sure, they're going to get a chance to try to win. But Shayna and Ronda got the belts. They've consolidated and they're undisputed. Done. They're going to keep it like that. What's also interesting as well, we do not have the tag team titles up on the line. No Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn at all set up for this pay-per-view either. I mean, you don't have to, but it's also interesting. Austin Theory, not on the card. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, not on the card. Pretty surprising to me. Very surprising, as a matter of fact. Now let's talk about the Bloodline Civil War. They haven't had to do much build up leading up to the match anyway, except for the fact of what happened at Night of Champions. And they get to here. We had the fallout the following week. And then we set things up to where the Usos came out, defended their decision. Story writes itself. And I think the Usos win the Civil War. I hate to tell you this. Roman and Solo do not have to win here. without the title being on the line, I think the Usos could absolutely go ahead and get the win here. And because this is Bloodline Civil War, how extreme and how, crazy could it get? Like, there hasn't been said anything about no holds barred or, no disqualification. Like, we haven't got anything about that either. But very well, Roman and Solo could win. Based on the fact that Roman and Solo have already been kept so strong. And Solo only has, one loss still? I think one pinfall. So there's something about that where, you keep Roman and Solo strong. But the setup for SummerSlam, like after that, you get the 4 weeks. What are we going to do after that? What's the setup? I don't know. I wish I had an idea of it, but we don't have anything set up like that yet. But we'll figure it out soon enough. But I like the pay-per-view so far. Hey, this Saturday, 3 o'clock. And I will be doing a post show for the program after the fact. You can find it right here, wrestlingisreal.com. I will do it that night and go for that. That'll be good to go and find out. Now, a few more things we're going to bring up. We're already set up for Slammiversary coming up July 15th. So in 2 weeks, we do that post show as well. And so far, we already have 4 matches already set up. PCO and Scott D'Amore. So yeah, Scott D'Amore is coming back to wrestle again. Take on Bully Ray and Steve Macklin. That's going to be a fun match, by the way. I haven't seen Scott D'Amore. I don't remember if I ever saw Scott D'Amore wrestle. I saw him as a manager for the Canadians, but I never saw him, Team Canada. I never saw him wrestle. But I know he's wrestled. Let's see how he does. Impact World Tag Team titles. ABC versus Subculture versus Brian Myers and Moose. To Sami Callihan and Rich Swann. Wow. That's a good match. I couldn't give you a pick on that. And then you have 2 major world title matches. Deonna Purrazzo defends the Knockouts World Championship against Trinity. That's just a big match. And then Alex Shelley defends the world title against Nick Aldis, the National Treasure Nick Aldis. Wow. I'm all in for that match. What a great night of matches to go on for that. That's going to be a hell of a time to go and see what happens on that. That's going to be fun. Now, AEW, they've announced that Grand Slam's coming back for 2023. This is Wednesday, September 20th. It's already been set up. So let's talk about that. So it'll be at Arthur Ashe Stadium. It will double as a live episode of AEW Dynamite, taping of AEW Rampage. And so we'll see what they're going to do with that. That'll be pretty fun. But they're setting things a lot up, man. There's a lot of events going on right now. Because you still got to worry about the fact that that coming up for events, you still have All in London, All In, and Dynamite Grand Slam all coming up. Setup is really something crazy, but it's all set up for that. Let's move along now and talk about Billy Corgan, who, I haven't talked much about NWA in a while. And it's been nice where he's been really piggybacking on the fact that his tour right now, The World is a Vampire, he's gone out and he's been doing a worldwide tour, attaching the NWA to it. And I feel like what he's been putting out there has been an exhibition, because there's not been much of, I don't know if there's been a lot of progression of storylines over there. When I look at what's been going on with NWA, nothing's really made much to me that really has stood out to me much anyways right now. I'm trying to keep an eye on it. But I must admit, I have not been paying too much about what NWA has been doing. I'm going to try to think about that. So the latest thing right now is you still have Tyrus as the World Heavyweight Champion there. La Rebellion is still the Tag Team Champions. That's when they won them back. I forget where it was. Was it Hard Times 3? I forget now. So they had a no DQ match with Thrillbilly Silas Mason winning. They're continuing to keep him strong. Then I have a World Women's Television Championship, and Kenzie Page holds that belt right now. And Kerry Morton dealing with Eman Osman. There's been some new stars he brought in here that I really have not been paying attention to much of. it's just kind of been there. I've just not been paying much attention. But anyway, one of the things is that I have not been really caring much, honestly, about what they've been doing with the stars they have up on top. I still care about Camille, but Tyrus as the champion. Billy Corgan has not been happy about the fact that people not really feeling too much enthusiasm or excitement for Tyrus being the World Heavyweight Champion or holding on to the belt for so long as he has. Like right now, I'm trying to think about how long he's held on to that belt. He's held on to it for a while now. Oh, right. It was hard times in New Orleans when Tyrus became champion. And so he's been for about 200 days or so. He's held on to that belt. It is what it is. So Billy Corgan spoke with WrestlingNews.co, and July 8th in Highland Park, Illinois, they're going to be holding an event, which will also be part of a charity event called HP Cares for Cooper. Highland Park Cares for Cooper. The event will benefit an 8-year-old boy named Cooper Roberts, who was shot during a devastating mass shooting on the 4th of July parade at Highland Park last year. There was a lot of people that were killed. 7 people killed, and Cooper had been going through some intense physical rehab and multiple surgeries. Now, he was shot, but is still working on recovering. Again, physical rehab and multiple surgeries. And then Corgan also talked about the fact of how there's an issue with Tyrus being World Heavyweight Champion. And he wanted to clarify, he said a few weeks ago, he was putting over Tyrus, and he says, quote, "If you're not going to watch him, then you're not a wrestling fan." And then Corgan spoke with Steve Fall at WrestlingNews.co to clarify what he said. Because, yeah, media always has that thing of taking a quote and isolating it. See, I'm not worried about so much where Tyrus is champion here. I mean, listen, he's older, and he's been up at a certain point in his career, but he's a little bit past his prime. Okay. He can still talk. He can still wrestle somewhat. But again, my problem I had going back to hard times last year was, who do you have going up against him? Like, who is it that you had that NWA can build right now to be the next World Heavyweight Champion? They really haven't had anybody. Like, when you think about that. Because right now, I'm trying to think what they've done at the moment and where they're at. If we're looking, okay, since in 2022, when they had all set up, right? Let's look what they've already had so far here. So after Tyrus won in a 3-way match for the World Heavyweight Championship, what have they had since? You had Enough Said in Tampa in February, and Tyrus beat Matt Cardona. And then you had a match, NWA 312, 312, where Tyrus beat Chris Adonis. So you just have 2 guys as matchups for Tyrus to win. But the problem in all that right there is you got all these guys that are up there at the top that, have been around, but what else are we doing? My thing is that even at the pop-up events, when they were in Mexico, World of the Vampire, NWA versus AAA, Tyrus versus Daga, Tyrus won. But what else is there next? And that's the part where I don't really get much out of it. I'm just saying to myself, there is no one set up to be the next champion there. That's the issue I have. So it's not so much where Billy is upset about people. Let's go and take the clarification to go with what they said. Quote, "I'll give the clarification to what I said. I'm not going to say I didn't say what I said, but the quote I saw being bandied about which was something along the lines of, if you don't like Tyrus, you don't like wrestling. Whether that was bastardized or that was actually came out of my mouth, but it was again in relation to something. So I'll clarify what I was trying to say. So maybe that's the better way to cross the bridge." Now, I understand this point he brings here. I get it. But you know what? I never talk about it either. Because I don't talk politics on this show. And unfortunately, I know some of my fellow podcast wrestling brethren like to talk politics. And I don't I don't like to talk about anything political on this program. That's not what this is all about. That goes for most of my programs too. I don't like talking politics. And some people like to go and do that. I'm like, it's such a unimportant soap opera. Why do I care? And people want to worry about whose people's politics are out there as if, like, if I cared about that, man, there would be nothing I would be watching. Like, if I had to go ahead and judge anything I ever do based on politics, then I would never get to enjoy anything. Like, I don't want to be on one side where, okay, I have to enjoy Bud Light and I have to enjoy, Target. I have to go, like, I don't care about this stuff. I watch the news. I see what they say on TV and it makes me want to vomit. Can't stand it. So here's what Billy Corgan's trying to say here. If you don't like Tyrus in a wrestling ring because of his politics, because he brings heat into wrestling, then I don't understand what wrestling that you're after. I went on to say, and I don't think it was quoted, are we only booking friends in a wrestling ring? Like, is this just patty cakes and then everybody pretends these guys hate each other and then they hug at the after party and everything's cool? I mean, like, I believe, like all good promoters, that the heat of the outside world coming into a wrestling ring isn't necessarily a bad thing. Right. My thing isn't as Tyrus' politics. Because he's on Gutfeld on Fox News on a regular basis. I could care less. My contention with Tyrus is just he's a little bit too old in the tooth to be the world heavyweight champion. Like, he can still be a major player in a wrestling company. I don't think there's a problem with that. But him to be champion for as long as he has, I understood Trevor Murdoch. I absolutely understood Nick and all this. But, and Matt Cardona, I understand those three names and the popularity they bring and they can still very much go. Not Chris Adonis, because Chris Adonis was never that much over. I think Chris Adonis had a nice run attached to Strictly Business as he was working along with Tom Latimer. And why Tom Latimer was never able to go and elevate up to go up against a Tyrus, I don't understand that part. Like, why did that guy not get a chance to get moved up either? Doesn't make sense to me. Now, Billy goes on to say, quote, remember when it was all that crazy with Edge, Matt Hardy, and Lita? That was a real life thing that was ultimately taken advantage in a wrestling ring, and obviously all the parties agreed. I can give you another example, Billy. Look at Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle. Shit. One of the best feuds that TNA ever had. It was a moment of real heat, and people had opinions about how the whole situation played on a personal level. So if your argument would be that should not have been a wrestling angle, well, that's a viable argument to make. If your thing would have been, I was uncomfortable with them being put in that spot, well, that's a viable argument to make. But it did happen, and it has happened in wrestling where real heat and real life come into the wrestling ring. That's my point. I'm not going to pick this one person in Tyrus, and if you don't like them as a wrestling talent, or you don't like them as a person, you don't like wrestling. So that's where it gets bastardized. It made for very good clickbait. Some of my friends actually encouraged me to go out and clarify. I'm not going to play this stupid game. I've been around too long for people to sort of cherry pick my quotes and try to make it a thing. That's why I like to try what you're saying, which is at the end of the day, I think I'm an intelligent person. You can argue with that point. But look, I've picked the NWA up out of the ashes. I turned it into a successful business. We have a lot of good news coming out, which I can't share yet, but I think we're going to get going in on about our 6th year of me owning the company. The roster's never been stronger. There are people who have noticed the quality NWA wrestling product week in and week out. And you know one of the people that he actually said that have been watching? Hulk Hogan is a supporter of NWA. People who are not, let's call the denizens of the dirt sheets. Like people who actually care about the quality of professional wrestling, not, let's call it the meta-narrative of each company and whether it's rising and falling. We've seen in recent times where one company has been really built up now to be torn down. Is that fair? I can't particularly say, but it's certainly good business for the dirt sheets. So right now, there's more money in the NWA about me as a controversial figure or the NWA possibly failing than there is of the NWA succeeding. And when we succeed, we will. Well, then it will turn into some different quasi-argument. So if you want to make the point about one talent, you kind of miss the point of what the point of what a professional wrestling company is. Now, this is what I got to come across with this. When it looks to what the rosters are and what NWA has been doing, I'm not necessarily, I don't want to go ahead and negate what they're doing right now. I really don't. But when I look at the state of wrestling right now, WWE has a really great roster with a history-making, once-in-a-lifetime storyline with a bloodline. And Roman Reigns being the sole catalyst that propelled everybody else up into that same level. Okay? Excellent storytelling. I can't say it enough. With AEW, I enjoy what they're doing right now. The positioning of Collision and Dynamite, what they're doing right now. What they're doing with the pillars. So MJF right now, Orange Cassidy. You're looking at what they're changed with Jungle Boy and deciding they're going to change that persona. Yeah, I don't have a problem. I support to see what they're going to make with the decision to change Jungle Boy, change his image, change his look and evolution and evolve the character. Yeah, that makes sense to me. That's good. That works. The way they're using the Blackpool Combat Club, the way they're using CM Punk, the way they're using the Elite, the way they're using the House of Black. I like a lot of what they're doing right now. And they got a lot of big shows and a lot of good matches they can put together. Look at what they did at Forbidden Door. Look at the talent and how much it's improved and how much more significant they are to put them up against New Japan stars. And they looked really good. All of them did. All of them did. And then I get to look at Impact Wrestling. And I've enjoyed what they're doing right now too. With the design, with Nick Aldis coming into the fray, with Trinity coming into the fray. Motor City Machine Guns, very important and significant. Eddie Edwards. You look at Deonna Purrazzo out there, still rocking and rolling. Steve Macklin, Moose, Sammy Callahan, ABC. There's a pretty deep roster over there in Impact Wrestling. They got some good matches. And when they want to set up a pay-per-view, they can put it together a damn good pay-per-view. As you know, I've been a long-time supporter of Impact Wrestling. And as I've always said, if I had to go ahead and get myself somewhere into the other smaller independents, right now, to me, MLW does the best for me. MLW right now, I love their roster. I love what they have right now. Old Manser, Jacob Fatu, Alexander Hammerstone. I mean, damn, there's a lot of good stuff right there. A lot of good matches to be set up. It's really, really great. They got a pack card coming up. They've already set up Jacob Fatu and Calvin Tankman now taking on each other. Jacob Fatu will defend the National Openweight Championship against Heavyweight Hustle Calvin Tankman. We haven't seen Calvin Tankman in a while. That's great. Domi Exo against Aver Everett. Winner take all match. Aver Everett's the WXW Women's Champion. Domi Exo winning over Taya Valkyrie for the featherweight title. Great stuff there. Microman. I love that shit right there too. That's good stuff. Willie Mack. I like him over here too. And there's a 5-way scramble where he's set up in that match. O'Shea Edwards is in it. Ken Broadway. Nolo Catano versus Love, Doug. Timothy Thatcher's back again. That's a great thing. I do have a thing where it's interesting. The calling with Raven heading that group, Simone SWAT team. That's fun. I'm not necessarily up where Gene Snitsky's in this right now and being brought in, but let me tell you, set up a great World Heavyweight title match with Hammerstone and Alex Kane. That's a good setup. And Alex Kane can very well win the World Heavyweight title and be the next champion here in the whole thing. I can see that happening. And that's not bad there at all. Because like I said, they make a big deal, the MLW World Heavyweight title. Hammerstone is the ninth person to hold that belt. 629 plus days. And Alex Kane could be the one that comes into that spot. Along the legacy of Jacob Fatu, who held it for 819 days, by the way. Tom Lawler, Low Key, and Shane Strickland of the current era. The return of MLW. It's great stuff. So I could see where Alexander Hammerstone drops the belt to Alex Kane. I really think that's going to happen. I see it coming up. And we're not that far from that event as well. It's coming up next week. We got that also to come up with. Look at that, man. I mean, it's all this is kind of come into play, and man, I almost forgot about this. Oh, we're almost already there, man. Saturday, July 8th, we'll have that. Great stuff coming up. Let's get to NWA. NWA does have some interesting talent, but there's not much there, man. They don't feel like Anthony Mayweather has been around for a long time. Aaron Stevens, Black Cheese. They're not necessarily looking at them to really move up anywhere in the ranks, do anything. They're not big on EC3 heading up to that title at all. When I look at Jack Stain, they don't feel like he's either the guy either. Harry Smith is not somebody they consider either. Like, they got some people in there that are wrestling, and they've got some good stars. They got Homicide gets to work out there. They don't have much into saying where Jay Bradley will do anything, or Judeus or Jeeves K. Mike Knox, I don't see anything with. Rhett Titus, I don't see anything with. But Trevor Murdoch's been out of the mix. Tom Latimer, the Pope, out of the mix. Where is the next talent that is being groomed for the World Heavyweight title to beat Tyrus? Who's the one that ultimately gets the chance? Not Jordan Clearwater. It's not Anthony Mayweather. It's not Doug Williams. It's not Chris Adonis. It's not Jack Stain. It's not Harry Smith. It's not EC3. Who is it then? I wish I knew. But we really don't have an answer for that yet. But I hope we do. Now, they do have 4 championship matches coming up for this show. Camille will defend the World's Women's Championship. The Burke against Natalia Markova, who's been around and around that world title picture for a long time. The National Championship, EC3 is the holder. Like I said, I've not been paying too much with NWA, so I don't remember when EC3 won the belt in the first place, but he will defend against Jordan Clearwater. You got to set that up. Okay. World Women's Tag Team titles, Missa Kate, Maddie Renkowski will go against Pretty Empowered, Kenzie M. Kali Page. You got that set up. Well, Kenzie and Kali, but that's not the same, right? Because Missa Kate was with Kenzie before, and then they split up. Remember, that's that. Right. U.S. Tag Team titles, Country Gentlemen, AJ Kazana, Anthony Andrews against SVGS, Blake Trubin, Jack Stain. And then Mike Knox and Trevor Murdoch versus Daisy Kill and Talos. Alex Taylor versus Drew Willie Salas Mason. Now accompanied with Danny Deals and no longer Pollo Domar against Joe Alonzo and Mario Padua. And Angelina Love versus Ruthie J. And then Gags the Gimp versus Psycho Boy Fodder versus Eric Jackson, a triple threat match. So I think part of the thing that I need to consider it as well is we need to get somewhere to where NWA can get back to some other pay-per-views and have more access. Like, it's nice to see him on pay-per-view or see him on TV right now with Power, but right now NWA, you know, he's taking it on the road because he's not doing the studio shows anymore. And he's trying to do something right now to go overseas and use the power of his tour to get crowds in front of the wrestlers and get them over. I get it. I see it. And it's fine if they're doing it. It's good. It's not a bad thing they're going to do. Right now, they're still running matches. They were in Australia for World of the Vampire Tour, and they're working with other organizations over there. They're working with the WAOA. So I don't pay attention too much to what's going on right now because they are working with other organizations, and they're trying to do something just to kind of get the word out there and get the wrestlers noticed. So at this point, what Billy Corgan's doing is trying to get some awareness to the product worldwide. That's not a bad idea at all, because he's not going to be able to compete with the other organizations with the star power that they have. Like, MLW is able to work, you know, mostly in the Northeast, and they can work Chicago, they work Philadelphia, they work New York, they can work Orlando, and they're still working on their things. And now MLW is getting to go and put a pay-per-view, first time since Saturday Night Super Fight. And here we go. Let's try it again. Impact has been consistent. They're back on the road once again. They're back out in Canada. They're going back down to Mexico. They're doing what they used to do before, and they're getting some better crowds. Like, they're also repositioning the way the stage is set when they're doing their shows, so you got more of a crowd. you can tell like they're trying to go ahead and set up the TV shows to get more of a crowd in there watching the show, or at least seeing a better visual of the crowd as well, which is good. So NWA, he's trying to just build interest for the product. There's not much for him to do where he does more shows in New Orleans or, Tennessee, and keep doing all these other shows that are in the smaller venues, and he can put it on TV or whatever he wants, but he's going to take advantage of his tour. He's going to take advantage of setting up some overseas shows to build the interest in NWA. And he's not wrong about that. But for me, that means just a lot of exhibition. So any booking that's going to be going on with the product right now is not going to matter. So if you want to just watch wrestling, you're going to get that. But any progression of storylines is going to get my interest. We're not getting that right now. And that's the part I'm missing with NWA. Does that make sense? We're going to leave it there. That is the program tonight. I'm feeling so comfortable right now. And you know what? I'm so happy I finally got a setting in the recorders right now so that I can still leave my fan burring along right in here so I can stay cool. But then everything sounds good after the fact. I'm very happy about that. You don't have any clue how happy that makes me feel. So everything's done here. And I'm in my comfortable chair. I'm all set up. I'm recording like I want to do. Like I'm just in the groove right now. So again, come back for Money in the Bank. We'll be doing a post show this Saturday night. WrestlingIsReal.com, and please make sure, if you haven't done so, if you haven't taken the time, please subscribe to the show, and feel free to go and listen to the audio version. Of course, a lot of people are listening to the YouTube feed. Thank you for that. But seriously, download the shows, stream them, the audio versions, hear the commercials. It's very important. I want to keep the numbers up for the show and spread the word about this program. There's no BS over here, no politics. We're just talking wrestling. We're having fun. And I'm not worried about all the other politics and BS and the other things, that the palace intrigue that all these other shows want to talk about. That's just fine. You could do that. And other people want to go listen to those shows, and that's what they do. But if you're going to hear this program, I'm going to be here straight and forward, enjoying it like a real, proper wrestling fan, enjoying the storylines, enjoying the shows, enjoying more than just the WWE, because it's not just all the WWE. Remember that. There's much more to it. So we'll take care of that. Remember, you can go and catch this show every week. Make sure to subscribe. Please rate and review Apple Podcasts. Rate and review as well on Spotify. I hope you'll consider that. And the same thing also, follow me on social media. I'm always putting the shows up there. I'm always making some comments up there. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, @King of Podcasts. Website for all my programming, all my music playlists on Spotify, and my other companion shows, which is the Broadcasters Podcast. I'll be recording that tomorrow. The Praise and the Botchers put up a great episode tonight, or last night, and I put that up there. You can find all those shows. You can find everything about it. KingofPodcasts.com. Everything about me is there. Come back this Saturday after Money in the Bank for the Wrestling Is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.